Peace. Welcome to the Dean Show. Dean Show, you're tuning in. This week we're going to be talking about teens, rebelling, solutions, major sign, minor signs. For example, has your teen already changed his or her name? Are they more inclined to the trends of what's cool and fitting in? Are they being disrespectful with a foul tongue towards you, your mother, your father, and many of these other minor signs? Some of them that we want to get a grasp on in the beginning so you can be aware of these things, so now you can nip it in the bud before it gets bigger and you got bigger problems. With my next guest with over 35 years experience to talk about Muslim teens in general, rebellion, and the solution here on The Dean Show. We'll be right back.
This is The Dean Show. This is the Dean Show.
This is the Dean Show. This is the Dean Show.
This is the Dean Show.
This is the Dean Show. This is the Dean Show.
This is the Dean Show.
This is the Dean Show. This is the Dean Show.
Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing, Shaykh?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. How are you, Brother Eddie?
Alhamdulillah, all thanks to the Creator of heavens and earth who's blessed us to be here together. And you're the author of over 12 books, 35 years experience plus. And the book that you've written, many books, one of them we'll be discussing today is When Muslim Teens Rebel. How did you end up writing a book like this? What motivated you?
Well, actually, writing books has a story. When we first came to Canada, myself and my wife, back in 1973, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we were involved with the community in Islamic work right from when we were building our first mosque there in Ottawa. And a couple of things happened, we attended one of the camps for children, Muslim children, and we noticed that their behavior was completely unacceptable. And that really worried us. So, this is going to happen to our we didn't have children then. This is going to happen to our children if we stay in Canada. That's too much. Then also we received an invitation for dinner from one of the, mashallah, very committed Muslims working very hard in building this new mosque we are building in Ottawa, Canada. And subhanallah, he invited other brothers and sisters who were involved in the project and with their families. And we saw how the teenagers are behaving. And that was an alarming signal for us. This is completely unacceptable. And we started worrying, is this going to happen to us if we stay in this country or not? And that, okay, for sure they are behaving this way because of certain reasons. What could be the reasons? Let's try to find out. So start reading in depth about, my wife has a background child psychology also, so she's a medical doctor, has a background child psychology. So I start reading from the religious aspect of it, in the Seerah, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran, anything that have to do with parenting, with raising children. And my wife also started talking about that from the child psychology point of view, and we started marrying this together. And we worked very hard with our children, when we had children, to make sure that inshallah they are not going to end up using foul language or challenging their parents. If they have a question, we encourage them to ask, no problem. But it has to be polite in a nice tone, no rudeness. And alhamdulillah, I think we did a good job. We have 4 children. All of them are very active Muslims and working very hard. They are all parents now and they are raising their children now. So alhamdulillah, I think it worked very good. And so one of the things we used to do is whenever we go to any Islamic gatherings, conventions, conferences, workshops, we take our children with us. And so those adults who interact with them, they start asking us, what did you do? MashaAllah, they are such nice kids, So alhamdulillah, we're lucky, we tried our best, But one incident that just hit us and said that we really have to share our experience with the rest of the Muslim community. One of our daughters were graduating from middle school, and the same school, most of our children, they went to the same school. So the vice principal, during the graduation ceremony, she was called to the stage 6-7 times. She's the top academic achiever, top this, top that. And so the vice principal, during the refreshment time, she approached us and said, Ikram, that's my wife's name, tell me your secrets. How did you end up having good children like this? So Ikram humbly said, we were just lucky, you know. She said, no, you could be lucky with one child, 2 children, but 4 of them, you must have done something right. And I advise you that you share it with your community. So when she said this, we're thinking about, you know, putting together something so we can share it with the community. So we start thinking, now I think this signal from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we really have to do something serious to share our experience with the community. What can we do? So starting doing just for mom. Ikram would gather the ladies in Ottawa and she would speak to them. Just for dads, I would gather them in and speak to them. But that was not enough, you know. So we started, said, okay, maybe we should write a book. And that was back in 1993 when we started putting together all the information. That was the first book, Meeting the Challenge of Parenting in the West, an Islamic Perspective. And alhamdulillah, it was published in 1998 during the ISNA convention in St. Louis, Missouri. It was the first book on parenting written by Muslims that tackles the problems here in North America. And soon enough, you know, start getting requests from different people to come and do workshops for them. And we realized that from these workshops and the question that we received, that teens' problem are what's in the mind of most of the parents. That's why we said, okay, we wrote the second book, Muslim Teens, Today's Worry, Tomorrow's Hope, a practical Islamic parenting guide. And then after this, we wrote Blissful Marriage. Then we wrote the other book, Parenting Skills Based on Quran and Sunnah. Then I wrote this one, which was actually a series of lectures that I did actually in Chicago.
Yes.
And so people, they were very pleased with that and said, why don't you please put it in a book? So I put it in a book format, and I wrote this one after this. So this is the story of getting to writing books on parenting, and alhamdulillah, it's been very rewarding. And we received lots of thanks and gratitude from parents who you know, use these books, and alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we make sujood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thanking him that we're able to be a contributing part to our Muslim community in North America in the area of the family issues and parenting.
We're going to take a break, and we got a lot more. We're going to get into the nitty and gritty and a lot of the other signs, minor and major, that you cover in your book, how you can grasp the problem before it gets even bigger. Here on the Dean Show, Muslim teens gone, rebelling, trying to bring them back. We'll be here to cover all this and more on the Dean Show. Don't go anywhere.
Please subscribe to The Dean Show. Follow us on our official Facebook and Twitter pages in the links below. Please also help support The Dean Show by making a donation in the link below.
Back here on the Dean Show, Sheikh, tell us now, how do you stay updated? We know doctors and people in any profession, they go for continuous training to be updated on some of the new developments, but we see in this development stage of technology is progressing, but immorality is also increasing. Morality is decreasing. So how do you stay updated with the current trends, what's new, what's out there, so you can adapt to the teens?
Yeah, well, actually, one of the main sources of knowing the problems of teens is your own children themselves. If you create a very good rapport and you become an approachable parent, approachability is very, very important in the relation with your teen. And you allow them to come back to you with any question, and you discuss with them, and you let them make sense of what's going on. They will be a very good source of information for you about what's happening in the teen's life. Of course, also you can for the internet now, and as other books and programs and TV, you can pick up bits and pieces from these areas also. But I want to get back to being an approachable parent. Many of us, particularly those who came from an Eastern background, our idea of a good child that he doesn't ask a question. He's quiet. He doesn't talk to you. And as a matter of fact, when he talks to you, he has to do this. He shouldn't look an eye, although this is not right, you know. This is not what was recommended by Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ used to speak to people right there, and they will talk back with him, you know. Many of the parents, because of this idea, which has nothing to do with Islam, they do not allow their children to ask a question. Why are you asking about this? As soon as why are you asking about this? No, this is not your business. Don't ask about this. Every question is an opportunity for us parents to know something about what's going on in the mind of our child. Every question is an opportunity for us to help this child to be in the right, to put him in the right direction. So it's very important that we encourage our children, particularly our teens, to come back to us and speak to us about anything in their life. And this wouldn't happen unless we provide the positive, healthy family atmosphere that we talked about in the session of the blissful marriage, unless we create a very good relationship with our children, so they feel very comfortable coming back and speaking to us. So if your child come to you and tell you something that you think it is wrong, he shouldn't have done it, don't right away on the spot, how come you do this? Don't you know? And become angry. Just take a mental note in your mind and listen to him. Let him open up and speak and tell you everything about it. And take a mental note in your mind that there is a specific problem that you have to deal with. And later, deal with it properly. See what are you going to do about it. But never just on the spot hit him right there. How come you do this? You are not good. Don't you know? You are a Muslim. Don't you should? This is not the proper way to handle it. Keep this channel of communication open. This is the key to having your child trusting you and listening to you and taking after you. So be an approachable parent. That's very important.
Being an approachable parent. Now, we mentioned some of the signs. Maybe the Muslim identity is being covered by a name change. You cover that in your book. Also, the disrespectful tongue towards the parents. Are these, you mentioned, are these minor or major signs, and how do you work with this now?
These are minor signs that you can detect right away, and you can try to help your child to get rid of these signs. There are other major signs when your child starts skipping schools, when your child you feel that he is not focusing, maybe he is on drugs or something like this. When he joins bad groups and things like these are other signs. And all of this happened because of the environment, the culture around. And the Prophet ﷺ warned us about environment. He said it has a huge impact on us, on our behavior. In one of his hadiths, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة. Every newborn is born in a state of pure innate nature. And it is his parents, the first circle of environment, that can change this nature and make him a Jew, make him a Christian, make him a fire worshipper. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So the environment is very, very serious. That's why in our workshops we give comparison between the popular teens culture and what is the focus there, what are the norms there, and what we want from our children as Muslims. So like that extreme selfish individuality is part of the norms of popular teens culture.
What's that called again?
Extreme selfish individuality.
Oh, yes, big time. Yeah.
Big time. Let's like physical indulgence. They want instant gratification, anything that brings in their mind happiness to them, they can do without respect to anything else. They want following fashion, following the popular group all the time. When they make any decision, they don't think about the consequences of their decision. Forget about the consequences in this life, let alone the consequences in the hereafter, you know. Respect to authority is not there. You don't respect their parents, you don't respect their teachers, their leaders. No. So these are norms for the popular Western teens culture. If you look at what we want to instill in our children, we want them to have family ties and family values. We want them to think before they make a decision, make sure that this decision is going to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life as well as in the hereafter. We want them to elevate themselves as they nourish their body, they nourish also their spirit. We want them to respect their elders, parents, teachers, imams, and so on and so forth. So certain values we want to instill in our children, family ties and community values. We want them to think before they make the decision, and their decision will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the consequences in this life as well as in the hereafter are good consequences. We want them to respect their parents, we want them to respect their parents, their teachers, their imams, and so on and so forth. So we can see that is a big difference between the popular teens culture norms and the norms or the teaching we want our children to have. And poor teens are right there stuck between a rock and hard place, as they say, because the popular teens culture is pushing them from one side and our parents are pushing them from the other side. Parents have to understand that they are under tremendous peer pressure and try to help them. And inshallah, we can talk more about how to help them with this peer pressure, inshallah.
We'll be right back with more to cover this very, very important topic. We're talking about peer pressure when we come back here on The Dean Show. Don't go anywhere.
Please subscribe to The Dean Show. Follow us on our official Facebook and Twitter pages in the links below. Please also help support The Dean Show by making a donation in the link below.
Back here on The Dean Show. So Sheikh, tell us, let's assume you're doing everything right, okay? It's a whole different story if you're not even living by the guidance that's been sent down from the Quran and the Sunnah. And let's say that you're trying your best, even with all the back home cultures, you're trying to eradicate those things, but now just given the environment. So you have the perfect akhlaq that's from the Sunnah and you're trying to implement this in your house, but now, and you're teaching your children the verbatim word of God, the Quran, the Sunnah, good akhlaq, good characters, manners, etiquettes, all this, but now they go outside of the house and now peer pressure.
Yes.
Is this just impossible?
No, it is not impossible. Peer pressure it could be positive and could be negative. And that's where the parents and community role comes. Usually the teen is surrounded with 3 circles of peer pressure. The first circle is his siblings and his very close friends. This is the first circle around him. The second circle is his classmates and friends in general. You know. Then the third circle is the teens of the society. He may not know them individually, but he knows what's happening. He knows what kind of movies he like to go to. He knows that they hang out in the mall. He knows the way they behave. So he's surrounded with these 3 circles of environment. And the first circle has the most effect on him in terms of peer pressure. So if we succeed in making this first circle a group of good Muslims that he can interact with, who have the same interests, who they can help him and they can apply positive peer pressure on him. And in the same time, they can act as a shelter between him and the 2 other sources of negative peer pressures coming from the classmates and from the teens culture in general. And that's where community comes in, like establishing youth centers, like the project you have here, the self-defense, because teens, they learn from interaction, from activity. It's very difficult to make them sit and give them a lecture. Get them involved in an activity. You will learn much more. Camps are very, very important. So Islamic camps, youth center, self-defense activities like the one you have here, all these things will create this good first circle of environment for the teen to interact with and to help protecting him from the negative peer pressure coming from the other circles. I always encourage all communities to try to, whenever they are building a new center, focus. Make sure that youth are your focus in this center. It is much easier to have like a big gymnasium and then at the Salah time you can all pray in the gymnasium. But if you just build a mosque as just a mosque and without place for the activity of the youth, you are not really helping solving the problem. So it's very important that we have youth centers. We train youth counselors to understand with youth and be approachable and talk to them, help them make sense out of everything. And then there are other things that parents can do, like take them for spiritual trips to Al-Umrah, for example. That leaves such wonderful impression on them. And there they meet the reality. Here they are living in a cocoon, you know,
Yes.
in a bubble. And everything is given. Technology is right there in their homes. But when you take them out for spiritual visits to some of these sacred places, it leaves such wonderful impact on them. Also, they see others, how they live, coming from different countries. If your home country or the country you came from is in the Middle East or in the Far East, go for regular visits there so they can see the reality of life, because here they are not really, they have the sense of entitlement that everything they can get
Yes.
for free from their parents, and this is not a right thing to leave in their mind, you know.
Before we leave, just a few more points before we cut out on this episode of the Dean Show. Tell us, is there an age now that when a child now becomes a young adult, we call them in today's society teen, that it's natural to rebel? Is this just something that goes through the natural makeup? Is this natural?
Yeah, part of it, but not. But if you can tame it, you can tame it from early age. If you have the right training, if you have the right approach with your child, you can tame it at early age, and he wouldn't need to rebel. But I think most of the rebellious will be coming from either the parents are not using the right approach, they are not too much restrictive, they are not considering the age of the child, you don't understand what they are going through, because during this teenage years there is lots of change physiologically inside the hormones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing this person to move from the childhood stage to the adulthood stage, and they are aspiring for independence. They are aspiring to assert their independence, actually, not just independence. They are aspiring to make their own decision, yet they are not at the stage they can fully do this. So it is very important that we try to understand the psychology and the physiological change that the teen is going on, and be very careful, because they become very moody and sensitive, particularly to the comments of their parents. So parents have to be very careful. Many times we say things jokingly to the child, but it leaves a very bad mark on his personality. So we have to be very careful what kind of comments are we saying. We have to give them the support needed. We have to put them within good groups, give them spiritual trips to different places, and most importantly, be an approachable parent. Let them feel they can come to you anytime with anything they have in their mind, because you will ask these questions to others if you are not an approachable parent, and you don't know what kind of answers they are going to get, and you don't want to put your children in this kind of situation.
For people who want to go ahead and reach out, you do these free parenting workshops. Tell us about this in the last minute we have, and how people can also learn more about your work.
Yes, if any community want to have us coming and do a workshop, just send us an email through the website www.familydawn.com. Send an email and say we want a workshop. And also in the website, you will have the different kind of workshops we do. The most important one is the first one, which is prerequisites for all the others, which is a positive parenting skill based on Quran and Sunnah. And that takes a whole day, 1 day. And all we do it for free, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. All what we ask the community is to pay our transportation expenses, put us in a modest hotel when we come to you, and inshallah rabbil alameen, we will try to give you the tentative dates where will be available. Then we can take it from there, inshallah. But we don't charge any booking fees, we don't charge any speaker fees in honorarium. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, we try to do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want to do something, give some donation to a good cause on our behalf. That's all what we're asking you to do.
Thank you very much
You are
for
very
being with
welcome.
us. May the Creator of Heaven and Earth reward you. Thank you so much.
Ameen ya Rabbi. Jazakallah khair.
And that was our guest, author of When Muslim Teens Rebel. Get the book, get educated, get empowered, because through this knowledge and experience of the experts now, inshallah, God willing, we can become better parents, we can become better Muslims, we can become better human beings, and then we'll get closer to our ultimate goal, Jannah, as a family, working and functioning together so we can produce better results, to be better functioning Muslims in a better society for a better tomorrow. Follow us, stay in tune with us on our Facebook page, on our Twitter. Tune in every week to The Dean Show. We'll see you next time, God willing. Until then, peace be with you.
Please